Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another Youth Nexus podcast. Today I'm joined by my good friends Mahmood rather, and Abdul-Rahman, both of them respective leaders in the community, in the industry. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but I'll hand it over to my friend Rahman here to introduce himself further.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum guys. My name is Abdul-Rahman. I'm a medical student. I'm an MD3, so third year of medical school at the University of Melbourne. So I did postgraduate medicine. Before that, I did an undergrad in the Bachelor's of Biomedical Science at Monash. And that's, I know both of these guys from high school. We go relatively way back, about 8 years ago.
Chucking it over to Kashawa.
It has been a while. Thank you very much for the gracious introduction, Ayan. My name's Mahmood, or the Anglos call me Mahmood. The listeners out there. I'm a final year law and arts student at Monash University, majoring in politics and international relations. Really excited to be here. We've got some important topics to discuss. So
and everyone already knows me, the host with the most.
Who doesn't know Ayan?
But moving on to the topic for today. So today's topic is work-life balance: how to manage and utilize your time without getting burnt out. Something the three of us have in common is we all lead very fast-paced and time-consuming lifestyles, and I just wanted to kind of get your perspectives on how you guys manage to do such a bang-up job in your respective industries and maintain your faith in Deen, and how does your faith in Deen play a factor in that balancing? I'll start with Kashawa, and then we'll move on to Abdul-Rahman.
Excellent. No, really important question, Ayan, and it's honestly a question that I grapple with on many days. I think the starting point should be how we view the need to balance work, study, deen, family, right? A lot of the times I think it's very easy to see, okay, if I want to succeed in life, if I want to succeed in my work, if I want to succeed in my study, that has to come at the cost of my deen. It has to come at the cost of me pursuing knowledge. It has to come at the cost of me learning the Quran, fulfilling my religious duties, or even just doing the supererogatory duties, right? I don't think that is necessarily the trade-off, right? Muhammad said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but if anyone sort of knows...
In meaning all this, yeah.
In meaning, he said something to the effect of, those that chase the dunya, or in another version of the hadith, those that put the dunya in front of them, in front of their eyes, the dunya will flee from them. Okay, and the opposite is true, right? Those who are concerned with the hereafter, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make their hearts light, and will make their endeavours, the professional endeavours they embark on, easier for them in this world as well. So
we should put our deen first.
Absolutely, and not
then the dunya will come for us.
Exactly, and don't see it as a trade-off. You know what I mean? You can have both of these things, and I think so. That's just a general mentality framing.
Maybe I'll swing it over to Abdul-Rahman.
Absolutely.
What did you think about what Mahmood said?
No, so I completely agree. So, I think I can present a dichotomy because back in year 12, I was in this position where perhaps...
By the way, sorry to cut you off, but I think it's worth mentioning Abdul-Rahman is a Hafiz. So he has a lot of credibility when it comes to work-life balance, because being a Hafiz isn't an easy task. But
Hafiz studying med.
Hafiz studying med, it doesn't get much better than that. I didn't want to mention it off the bat, but I think it might be necessary for our readers to listen to this man.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. I think, please listen to Mashaykh. Please. No, alhamdulillah, I've been around the bush. But, so I think one of the key things to me, especially in year 12, I wanted to do medicine since ages. And I got an interview for undergrad med. My marks, alhamdulillah, were high enough. And I sat that interview and I failed it. Right? I failed it miserably, and I didn't get into undergrad med. I then went to the Bachelor's of Biomedical Science. And during that, I think I went through a really big transformation. I finished HIBS when I was 13 years old. But did I ever do tadabbur? Did I ever reflect? Not really, right? It was more of my baba said, mum, dad, they said do it, and I went and did it, right? But the reflection really came after year 12. I think that there was a large period of growth for me where I started to look at why I do certain things. Why did I want to do medicine? One, my passion.
So you really need to focus on that inner purpose.
Inner purpose, absolutely. And ayah from Surah Al-An'am, fixed everything. And there's a couple of ayahs that really, A, reignited my drive to do medicine, and B, ignited how I should live my life, or realigned it really. The ayah from Surah Al-An'am is, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. What does this mean? قُلْ, say, this was an instruction to the Prophet Muhammad to say to the people, إِنَّ صَلَاتِي, my salah, وَنُسُكِي, my rites of sacrifice, وَمَحْيَايَ, my living, وَمَمَاتِي, my dying, Lillah, is for Allah, Rabbil Alameen, Lord of those. Right? And I took that. I said, you know what? That's right. It's not about a balance. It's not about, I want to do medicine because it's my passion. I want to do medicine because this, that, whatever reason, It's about me wanting to do medicine or whatever field it is that we pursue for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And I didn't really work any much harder than I did in year 12 in uni, but I found that the doors of risk opened so wide. They opened. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened my brain, made it easy for me to ace everything. Allahumma barik. And like another point is like, or at least for my journey, what led me into medicine is the ayah from Surah Ma'idah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed the Bani Israel, من أجل ذلك كتبنا على بني إسرائيل أنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا. So that first part of the ayah instructs to the effect of, if you kill someone without due cause, or without them spreading fasad in the land, then it's as if you've killed all of mankind. فَكَأَنَّمَا قَتَلَ النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. The very next part of it, وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا, if you save a life, فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. It is as if you have saved all of mankind. Right? So I'm reading this and I'm like, here's this profession that I'm already passionate about, where I get to save lives on a daily basis. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala it says in the Quran that if I save these lives, it's as if I'm saving all of mankind. So if I'm doing that on a daily basis, the good deeds are racking up, right? We're, inshallah, with the mercy and rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, walking into Jannatul Firdaus. So the alignment is, I'm not doing this for me anymore. Now I'm doing it for Allah. And if I'm doing it for Allah, if it doesn't happen, if I'm unable to make it, if I'm unable to work through it, then it 100% was not good for me. That because I committed it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if it is good for me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the doors for me, and He did. Right? And that's, Allahumma barik. That's, so as a lesson, the key lesson that comes from that is, A, focus on the deen. The dunya will follow. Don't you worry. وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Surah Dhariyat, that the risk is written in the heavens. It's in the heavens. Yeah. So your risk is already written for you. Don't chase it. You chase Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the risk will open. It's not something to worry about.
Just to put to both of you that, a lot of brothers and sisters out there, they really struggle to envision themselves in that way. Like they struggle to see, a lot of people might be tempted to say, why should I study and do all these things when I can just worship all day, right? I can just become a scholar, become a student of knowledge. And fact of the matter is, a lot of people are not, suited for that lifestyle. What can you say to these people who maybe they don't have the opportunity or the abilities to pursue that sort of lifestyle, and maybe they're not aiming that high, maybe they're just wanting to do maybe the bare minimum, or not the bare minimum, but a little bit more than the bare minimum, but in the context of a modern society. What would you guys say about that?
I think that's a great question, Ayan, because a lot of us are in that position, right? And I was actually having a discussion with a student of knowledge about this. I asked him that very similar question to that. And what he told me is what the people of knowledge said in terms of intention, and being very careful not to neglect our intention. If we are careful with our intention, we can turn a daily act of habit, something which is part and parcel of us seeking provision, work, study, developing our skills purportedly in a material sense. We can turn that habit into an act of worship, and vice versa. Okay, if we're neglectful with our intention, then acts of worship can just become habits that we don't necessarily be rewarded for, right? So, again, I think what that shows is, regardless of what you're doing, right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us on this earth for a purpose. Now, the underlying purpose we know is in the Quran, right? I have created you so that you may worship me, okay? But the way we go about that is going to be very different for different types of people, okay? Some of us might, again, have the fortitude and the passion to become full, students of knowledge. Others, like, for example, myself, right? Full-time student working on the side. So for those who are less endowed with the time, with the capacity to pursue, the deen and the religion in that sense, then we should put our intention when we study, right? When we go out and network and meet these people, when we do the work that we do.
To remember the why that's underlying all these actions.
Absolutely.
So you don't necessarily have to be a student of knowledge to attain the same rank as maybe, or even greater than the student of knowledge. Me personally, I have a story of one of the Arbis at a camp I met, and he wasn't a particularly intelligent Arbi, let's say. Like, obviously he had his thing, but
relatively speaking,
what I mean to say is he wasn't like an intellectual. He wasn't like a scholar. He wasn't like a teacher.
Sure.
He was a layman, a very general person, right? And in the sense of the meaning, he was a cleaner. He was a cleaner, and then after every prayer, what I noticed is he was the one that stayed. He was the one that stayed, and he picked up like every piece of rubbish there, and then he left. And I would watch him like after days. I'd be like, why is this Abi always, going out of his way to do this? So I walked up to him like, Abi, like, and obviously, you see someone older than you want to follow in his footsteps, and regardless of why he's doing what you're doing, you just did what he does. After a few days of following him and doing this, I sat down with him and I'm like, Abi, why do you always do this? And he's like, look, I might not be as knowledgeable, I might not be as, at that intellectual capacity to teach you guys. But what I can do is I can maintain this place of knowledge, this place of worship, where you guys sit, you guys pray, you guys do your majlis. He's like, I can do that. And so by that intention, by giving you that opportunity in that place, maybe I'll get all the rewards that you guys get. And so at the end of the day,
that's such a beautiful intention.
We have we have two types of people, right? We have the people that are there to teach us, and then the people that facilitate. And I think we see that in the day-to-day world as well, right? Like, for example, like my mother, she was a housewife, but like I couldn't have done it without her. Like, my dad went out, got the bread, but without my mother at home looking after us, giving us those traditions and values and those knowledge, I would not be here today. So they both go hand in hand. So what that is to say is, I feel like we went a bit off topic, but we need to have that underlying intention, because even if you're not doing that work, you might still be getting the rewards for the work if that intention is for the sake of Allah.
Absolutely.
So I think we kind of touched on that point of intention. Can I talk about some success stories or some challenges that you guys have faced where you've been at odds with, let's say, like, your work and your life, your struggles with family?
And where do we start?
This is big topics, yeah. But this is a more practical question, and I think we've touched a lot on the religious aspect. But let's talk about like strategies that are more practically, suitable for a lot of the youth today. And I know, Abdul-Rahman, maybe I'll start on this point. I know that you go gym. How's that kind of physical kind of addition to your life fared?
Maybe give the visual context for those.
He's a bit of a junkie, man. He's a hunk.
Alhamdulillah.
Mashallah.
Strong believer.
Yes.
We need those, man. We need those.
Absolutely.
Especially today.
Alhamdulillah. So gym has been a very interesting. So it's had a lot of perverted benefits that I didn't actually recognize until I went and did it. Right. I feel like often stress relief for me.
Talk to me about that stress, bro.
So the stress is difficult because I think the weight of all the stress kind of came onto me in MD2 in the second year when we started clinical placements, because I started to see these people, I started to see the patients, and I'm like, whoa, okay,
it's a lot. Huh?
This is crazy, because if I don't know my stuff, I can cause issues, and I can, the worst case is I'm trying to help when I'm actually harming. Stuff like that.
There's also maybe the aspect of depression, bro. When you see these people, half dead.
Yeah, no, I've just completed my psychiatry rotation this year, and all of the patients I've seen, I'm not going to, I'm not going to speak about it because it's quite in depth. But there's been some stuff I might talk to you guys outside the podcast about what's happened there. But yeah,
make it easy.
So and Muslim people too. Muslims, right, going through this. Now, obviously, that takes a toll on me. I'm like, well, here is someone who I, but so for me, gym has been. So initially I went there because I was like, well, I need to get a little bit more healthy. I need to lose some weight. I need to, gain some more, muscle mass, because it's good for, cardiometabolic health. And, it's just good for health in general to do some activity, physical activity. When you think about it, someone who's at university studying an intense degree all day, you're on your computer, you need to get some physical activity, and, short pivoted bursts of intense physical activity it's a good way to do it, right? But what I noticed is as well, the days that I was stressed or something's happened at uni or a placement that I was like, whoa, this is heavy.
Or maybe even in life.
Or even in life, yeah. I would send it straight to the gym. I'd send it straight to the gym, and I'd lift some weights, and I'd let all of that I don't want to call it anger, but those pent up feelings, I release them all on the weights, right? And I find that some of my friends do boxing, right? And they say the exact same thing. They're like, well, boxing is not just for my physical health, but it's for my mental health as well. It gives me an outlet. It gives me an outlet to be able to release all of the stresses that I've got. And for me, gym has done the same thing, right? If I'm going, we're going to pick up a heavy set, we're ready to go. If it's a bad day, just repping it and that motion of releasing all that tension, I come out, the endorphins are flying, as you know. But
so it's like emotional therapy through
yeah, absolutely. But to recognize that it's not just gym for everybody. So people have different ways of having that. The point is that whatever outlet you have needs to be healthy, right? Some people have outlets like,
it's a very good point.
We have some people, like especially the non-Muslims, their outlet is alcohol, right? You end up with liver cirrhosis.
Whatever you name it, bro, yeah.
Yeah, people have unhealthy outlets. But to ensure that, and some people just yell at their family members or they yell at their close ones. These are all unhealthy ways of releasing that tension, that pent-up tension. So as long as you have a healthy way of doing that, I think that's probably the most important.
What are some examples of some healthy ways?
Healthy ways, like for example, gym is fantastic. Any sort of sport is fantastic, right? Some people play competitive video games as a point of just that fueling that competition, releasing that kind of that emotion, right? Often it's exercise and maybe going out with friends as a point to release stress, or maybe having someone close to you that you might talk to for therapeutic benefits. So that might be a mum or a dad or a spouse or something, right? So all of those things are healthy outlets.
Very good additions. I'll throw it back over to Mahmood.
Look, I don't...
Same question.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I'm necessarily the best person to speak to you about effectively managing stress.
I know you do jogging, man.
Well, you've seen my hairline, though, so it has receded quite substantially in the last few years. But no, I certainly agree with Rahman on the point of, first of all, needing sort of a physical outlet, right? I'm quite lanky in disposition, so maybe the gym hasn't been my go-to. But yeah, so I jog fairly... I try to do it every day, and it's exactly like Rahman said. I think it's more of a mental thing when you do something like jogging, right? Like a repetitive activity for an extended period of time. It's an outlet for your brain to go somewhere else, right? Because when you jog, you're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about the task that's due. You're not thinking about assignments. You're not thinking about the presentation you're giving, right? Your mind sort of, it goes somewhere else. And I think that's really important. So yeah, I 100% agree on that. I think another thing which has really, really helped me, and those that know me will probably be a bit surprised to hear me give this, but this is something I've implemented just before Ramadan and sort of extended it through Ramadan, and it's been really effective for my productivity. And that's making use of your mornings. Okay?
Yes.
Because of dua, I think Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say, "Oh Allah, like give my ummah barakah in the morning," or something like that. So I think when you sort of start your day early, okay, and you have a plan, you find that the work that you're doing in those early hours are 2-3 times more productive than that work you're doing like after midnight. Okay, I used to be a night owl. I've experienced both aspects, and it's been amazing for my productivity. Again, that's the time I do my jogs, and then that's the time I get all that substantive workout. And mentally, our bodies are not made for the no sleep, caffeine induced.
I was thinking about that the other night. I was thinking about there's an ayah in the Quran that says, we've made the night a blessing for you, so you can sleep at night and work during the day.
Yeah.
So sorry to cut you off, but I thought that was a relevant point to bring, because it's a blessing from Allah that we have these cycles.
Yeah, no, took it right from my tongue. Yeah, we have created the night as a rest and the morning for you to work. Absolutely. So that's one thing that's helped a lot. And if I can maybe just throw another tangible strategy I've used, maybe let me outline the problem. Because I'm in my final year, so I'm not just sort of.
It's not all study.
It's not all study, right? Study is one part of it. Exam preparation is one part of it. Whole bunch of grad applications. I was just telling the boys, next week, 4 job interviews. I'm going to Malaysia for a final year. elective.
No way.
Well,
That's amazing.
Malaysian law, huh?
yeah, death penalty, all that.
Oh, okay,
all that
Great.
good stuff.
We'll bring back the Sharia with us. Implement it as part of your policy.
Inshallah,
bro.
that's the intention.
Get into his ear. Get into his ear.
No.
Sharia. Oh, I was going to say Pauline Hanson, bro. The Israel scarf the other day. But...
So I hope my MP doesn't hear that. But that aside, and obviously with work that I'm doing, you find that you have a bunch of commitments, right? And there is no way that you are going to be able to discharge all those commitments within the stipulated time period if you're just keeping it all in your head. There is no way. I tried that. I was forgetting assignments. It's the more mundane tasks that you forget. Oh, I had this presentation at work. Oh, I had this submission that was due or I had to make this alteration that I didn't make, right? It's really unprofessional, okay? It will undermine your standing in university, in the workplace, right? So, again, this is something I also started doing during Ramadan. I bought a daily planner. Okay, and this is going to sound like a big plug to the daily planning lobby or whatever, but I promise this is something I've actually been doing. And what I do is make sure that I'm physically like penciling in all these commitments, okay? I've also got like a sticker system, like different stickers whenever I exercise, whenever I, read Quran for the day, whenever there's certain like criteria I've set. I won't share an extensive list of them, but there is quite a few there.
The point is you mark a few off.
The point is that I put those down, okay? And then at the end of every week, I look at how I've spent my day, okay? And that very clearly, when you've got a written record of exactly how you've spent your week and exactly how you've spent each day, you can evaluate. I was productive Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, not so much. What went wrong on Wednesday, okay? And I just feel like that accountability mechanism, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the daily planner, okay? Different people should have different accountability mechanisms, whether that's, relying on friends perhaps, forming study groups, some people do like daily to-do lists, whatever it is. Having that accountability mechanism has really helped me manage these simultaneous commitments, and I feel like perform, to the best of my ability. So that's another piece of advice I'd give to those listening. Okay, plan and make sure that you're holding yourself accountable.
Yeah. Just as a point of difference, there is absolutely agreed with what Kishoa said. It's so for me, I've got a very similar system in place. It's not a physical planner, but and I'm going to shamelessly plug Notion here. Do use Notion. I think that or at least investigate how to use it. If you can set up like a good calendar system on Notion and integrate that with your Google Calendar, it's fantastic to keep you up to date and to keep you, specific on your tasks.
Is this an AI?
Yeah. So Notion it's a little app, right?
Okay.
And it's you can download it, or you can even use it the web-based version on it. Okay. So I advise Notion. Notion. So Notion, Notion. So that's just to make it clear. It's a very interesting app. If you learn how to use the calendar, I'm still figuring it out, but I've got the base functions down, and I just use the calendar to set up my day. And I think that it's a fantastic way, because you can also share your calendars, and with Google Calendar as well. I use it at work too, so I can share that calendar with my employer, and then they know, he's available for work this time, but he's not available for work this time, because I've kind of synced all of my uni calendar, my work calendar, my personal calendar all together. So I think it's a fantastic way to keep yourself accountable. Yeah.
So that was interesting elaboration on some productivity habits, guys. And for more details, I think you should definitely read a book that I've read multiple times, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I don't know if either of you have read that book, but it's
been recommended to me. Yeah.
Probably one of the most influential books I've read, and it definitely helps with structuring your mind, like getting your mind right. And the reason I laugh is, there's this little meme, like on Reels, Instagram Reels, and there's this little of-coloured background kid. He says, get your mind right, get your day right, go get that bread.
Oh yes, one of those motivational videos. I've seen that.
And, I find it adorable, but anyway, that was a bit of a tangent.
Just reminded me there, you mentioned Instagram. On a serious note, this is something I was thinking about as well. I think the importance of removing distractions as well.
Yes.
When you are embarking on a task, whether it's studying for an exam, doing an assignment, it's really important, guys. Get rid of those distractions.
Get rid of the phone.
Okay?
Put the phone away as far away as possible.
Delete Instagram,
Absolutely.
brother.
Delete social media.
Delete Facebook.
Do what
you
you
gotta
have to do. Give it to your parents. Give it to a friend. Because you
crazy.
will eat up a lot of time. Like you might be sitting in the library and you might walk out 6 hours later thinking, oh, I just spent 6 hours in the library, when in effect your effective study time was maybe half that amount, right? Because you were being distracted by the phone calls, by the messages. So guys, really important. Remove distractions and when you embark upon a task, have conviction, have a class, whatever you do.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's really, really important. And I just feel like that's a pitfall a lot of people fall. We live in a society which encourages, short-term consumption.
Sure.
Okay, and you have to be aware of that. Recapture some self-consciousness with how you spend your time, and that's something which
Consciousness is a big word. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Going back to the earlier point, that 7 Habits of a Highly Effective Person. Read that book because it touches on distractions. It touches on proactivity.
Yep.
So it's not only about, like how effective you are. It's about keeping your mind effective in a way that you're healthy. So it talks about what Rahman talked about, which was the calendar planning. So he makes a weekly planner, right? And at the end of every week, he advises you to go over it. Set goals.
Yep.
Do what Kishore does, right? And have a weekly review. Make sure you're hitting those goals. Make sure you're not having any pitfalls, and then if you are, identify them.
Yep.
He starts the book out by explaining you're the programmer. Make a program and then stick to it, right?
Yep.
So by saying you're the programmer, you're taking, control of your life. You're saying, I'm going to be proactive today. I'm not going to let these outside factors dictate how to live my life.
Absolutely.
I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do what I got to do.
Absolutely.
You're the programmer, so what are your beliefs? What are your values?
Absolutely.
Live according to the deen, right? Live according to what you believe in. And then, do the program, right? Now, I kind of want to move on to something that I've been thinking about lately, and it's related to what Rahman was saying about stress. This stress gets pent up in the body, and we need outlets. Both of your outlets was, gym, physical activity, right? And we also talked about religion, right? The purpose of why and how that helps. But something I kind of want to bring our notice to is the healing power of nature. And it's going to sound a bit hippie, right? But I think, especially in those COVID days, a lot of us realized how important it was to get away from work, to get away from life, spend some time with family, spend some time actually recollecting our thoughts and our health, mental sanity, and coming back at it. So what do you guys think about this point in particular?
Yeah, I think...
I feel like I just threw you under the bus there.
And all that, I was
just talking about...
Do you want to, maybe, because if you want to talk about that, I feel like that's a really...
So anyway, long story short, is a very enjoyable book and that I think everyone can benefit from. So give it a read.
Sure.
But moving on to the next kind of point, and I think this one's a bit personal. Like last week, I was having a very stressful week and messaged a friend and we decided to go to Mornington Peninsula.
a little bit.
And we went there and this was a very similar experience to what Rahman and Kishore were talking about, having that pent-up rage and relaxing in it. But this had the added benefit of being in nature. And I feel like this natural aspect is very vital to human living and the human condition. We need to be able to look at nature, and the Quran says multiple times to contemplate. And I think going to a natural place, being out in nature, letting your stresses kind of fall away, getting away from the environments that you're normally in. You're normally at home, normally at work or at university. Getting away from it all, moving to like a natural kind of environment, I think does wonders for the mind. And since coming back from that trip, I've been reawakened. My habits have changed. My mind has changed. I've been sleeping better. And it's all about kind of every now and then getting out in nature, doing some tafakkur. And this is the highest level of dhikr, right? Going out and contemplating Allah's creation, being grateful and being patient at the end of the day. So maybe I'll handball it over to one of my learned colleagues, but they can elaborate a little bit.
Rahman is trip.
Yeah, you go for it. So I think, so I've never been one for natural. So of course there is the contemplation of like through biology. You study biology, you see all these amazing things. You think like, for example, the xylem and the phloem that exists within trees, right? And how that facilitates nutrient transport. And that's a point of reflection from my studies. But in terms of immersing myself in nature, I recently went to Tasmania with a couple of the boys, and I think that was eye-opening for me in the sense that I focused a lot on camaraderie and brotherhood, which is like ukhuwa, it's a huge aspect of Islam as well. But immersing myself, so we went on hikes, we observed Tasmania is a beautiful place. I really recommend anyone to go visit if you have the capacity. It's cheap, the flights are cheap. Spirit of Tasmania is not that expensive as well if you wanted to take your car. But
could go for a hike in Victoria as well.
I mean, you could, but Tasmania is beautiful. So, yeah. So
my man wants to take a flight, man.
No, so I think it's like, so the experience of immersing yourself in a place like that, it reminds you how lucky you are that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created you and that you get to experience the beauty that He's created as well. Right? So that whole idea of gratefulness, you say, like you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for enabling you to witness this. Yeah. For letting you see this. Yeah. And for every all the different types of flora and fauna that exists as well. Like it's something that does help you connect with your Lord, especially if you are contemplating in that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this and He created me. In the similarities that we're both creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the difference is, of course, we have mental faculty, but these things might not, right? But even then, they're still living, they're still alive, right? And they still have all these complex, I guess coming from a science background, I tend to focus on the complexities around like molecular signaling and all of these things that enable growth, right? And so a lot of my reflection was around that. So I distinctly remember, so on those topics of ukhuwa and reflection, I was sitting with one of the boys and we were just sitting on a bench, right? The beach, water clear as day, sun directly overhead with like rings. And that image is just pasted in my head. And
you think back to it.
And I think back to it often. And not even the conversation. The conversation was, not going to lie, kind of stupid, but because the boys mucking around. But
bro, those are the best conversations.
But we're sitting there, and I think back on that moment fondly because that moment was just it was just peace, man. It was just peace.
Sure. Any final remarks before we end the episode?
Oh, look, I think if you gave me a choice between, spend Friday night at a restaurant somewhere in the city, spend it hiking at
Fishing,
Cathedral Ranges.
Take Mehmet.
That might be a step. That's a step 5. I've got a funny story I'll show you about that. But I'll pick the hiking any day. I think when you are in between Allah's creation, and you have the time to sort of contemplate on the beauty and the perfection of His creation, it's a very serene experience. I think praying in front of a flowing river, there's a camping spot we go to with a couple of friends. That's one of the best, easiest places to have khushu'. Yeah, when you hear that water, you hear the birds, the possums.
Literally physically taking yourself out of all the stresses and placing yourself back where Allah intended you to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Having reminders of His creation, not just with your eyes, with every single sense, right?
Absolutely.
With what you smell, the natural smells, what you hear, what you touch, right?
Absolutely.
So certainly, I agree. That those natural endeavours.
Anyway, thank you so much, boys, Mahmood Kushawa and Abdul-Rahman. It was a beautiful discussion, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
My pleasure, Ayan. It was lovely to have this chat with both of you. Definitely some pointers I will take home with me.
Absolutely. Yeah, so good to learn from these boys, man.
Sure. Thank you. The pleasure's all mine, and I hope the listeners enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much. This is Youth Nexus.
Bloopers time!
Signing off.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A question that I wanted to put to you guys is, often in our lives we might deal with stress due to family and other kind of social relation situations. Like, how open are we to kind of using our social network, or how important is it to you that your social network be there for you to help with this stress? Like, how would you utilize that asset if it is an asset, right?
Pass
it to Kashawa.
Absolutely. I think very important is the short answer. A few years ago, I was in a situation where a lot of bad things or things that I perceived to be bad happened at once. Really stressful things. I got into a really serious car accident. Wasn't insured at the time. I lost a pet, which might seem a bit mundane, but was a part of the family. Really. I got COVID.
Wow.
I was Islamically engaged and that, didn't work out. And that sort of all happened in the same period, like maybe in the space of, 2-3 months. And in that period, I found that recourse to social networks was very important. Okay, the first thing is friends. Okay, having a close, God-fearing, supportive group of friends was really, really important. We're blessed with our organisation. We have a boarding house network. Okay, the amount of time Youth Nexus, yes. The amount of time I spent, Brunswick became my second home during that period of time. The Brunswick boarding house. That's where I did my quarantine. That's where, did a lot of sort of emotional therapy with the boys that were there.
Deep chats, huh?
Absolutely, deep is an understatement. So that was one thing which was really important.
Talking through your problem.
Absolutely. With a group of like-minded people, with a group of empathetic people, with people that could give you advice in both respects, right? In the worldly aspect, and also inject a bit of religion into it. Another thing was just having a sense of belonging to a community. Okay, and again, this is the great thing about Youth Nexus, right? Through the camps that we're running, through the, discrete events that would happen at different boarding houses or, at the school or whatever. Just having people that you could speak with, having people that would, guide you, give you some wisdom, be a shoulder to lean on, outside of just your normal sort of immediate social circle, okay? I think that was also very important. So two things there, friends and making sure you belong to a strong community that you can lean on.
So I think the preliminary to that is having good friends, having strong relationships.
Absolutely.
So we shouldn't disregard these kind of friendships and these social relationships in light of work and deen. Like, part of the deen is to be part of the community. Part of the deen is to create these strong friendships and these strong relationships. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. So we will be signing off. What an amazing discussion. I sincerely enjoyed making that, and I hope our listeners enjoyed it just as much as we did. From Youth Nexus, Assalamu alaikum, and we'll catch you next time. Take it easy.